Welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where we help you conquer the internet one video at a time. We cover everything from how to start a YouTube channel to how to make a video go viral. And now, here's your host, the one and only Dusty Porter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 307 of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where each and every Friday I release a new interview with a wonderful YouTube creator. So excited for you guys to listen to this week's interview. It was an awesome one. So before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, TubeBuddy. If you don't know who or what TubeBuddy is, please check them out. We have a link that says try TubeBuddy for free for 30 days in each description of our podcast. If you use that link, it'll help us out and it'll help you out because you will get 30 days, an entire month of utilizing everything that TubeBuddy has to offer. So if you would, please utilize that link. You will not regret it. All right, so I also would like to encourage you, if you haven't already, to leave us a review, whether you're listening on Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast. It does help the podcast out, helps us grow, helps us get into new ears. That sounded kind of strange, but it's true. It helps new folks find the podcast. So if that's something that you would be willing to do, it takes 5 to maybe 10 minutes to do so, and it's really easy, and it really does help the show out. And if you don't know what we do here on the podcast, we're here to help you either start, grow, or monetize your YouTube channel by giving you a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes by interviewing wonderful creators every week and talking about their journey on the platform, the struggles they've had, how do they overcome adversity as a creator, and so much more. So you can also support us over on patreon.com/DustyPorter. Get a couple of really fun perks over there, but basically you're doing that to support the show and to help us continue to spend the time and effort it takes to produce a high-quality YouTube show to become, and as we are currently, the best and most popular YouTube podcast on the market, and it's all because of you guys. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. I am joined today by Jed Grieve from the Cook Culture YouTube channel. He grew up in a traditional brick-and-mortar retail, working with his mother, and started his own business in 2010. He focuses on high-end kitchenware and developed a niche for conventional uncoated cookware, like stainless steel, cast iron, and carbon steel cookware. The reason that people buy coated cookware, he says, is a lack of knowledge and for convenience. It's impossible to make conventional cookware more convenient than non-stick coated cookware, but it does cook better, so he focuses on quality and education. He spent many years educating in our stores, but as COVID set in, he doubled down on his video content. He quickly learned that YouTube was the best marketing vehicle available to him and built 10,000 followers within a year, focusing heavily on his existing 30,000, that's a huge number, email subscribers who he emails 2 to 3 times per week, and we will be getting into that. His Cook Culture YouTube channel currently sits at almost 20,000 subscribers and getting anywhere from 80 to 150,000 views per month. He is killing it. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dusty, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me here.
Looking forward to this chat. You've got a lot of really unique things about your channel I definitely want to dive into, but before we do that, let me know the origin story of the channel Cook Culture. You've grown it now to a very respectable size, got a lot of great community over there. So what's the story behind the channel?
Yeah, well, years past, I've been in the Google kind of space for a long time. So I will always turn on a Google tool. And years previous, maybe 2015, 16, somewhere in there, I had turned on the Cook Culture YouTube channel. We had done a small amount of little marketing to it. I've put up a banner and so on and so forth, and maybe posted 2 or 3 different videos there. Maybe, I can't actually remember what was there. It had collected 1,500 or 1,700 followers over the years, just organically, just from whatever it was that we had done randomly there. And it just kind of became this thing that sat in the corner that was heavily ignored until, COVID set in, and I, really need to start to look in different ways to communicate with our existing customers.
I love that. And then you took this as a way to and explain to my audience as far as like what you do, as far as like selling the cookware, like what is your business and how did you marry the two together as far as your business and then the Cook Culture YouTube channel?
Yeah. Okay. So the best way I can probably put it is that, to an American audience, you're going to be familiar with a business or a store down there called Sur La Table, or Sur La Table, where they sell regular traditional kitchen gear in a brick and mortar retail location and have a teaching facility, usually in all of their locations. That's what we had done in Cook Culture in 2010. We had started a cooking school within a retail store. So we sell pots and pans and knives and dishes and anything that you want for your kitchen, leaning towards high end, to high quality to high end, and then teaching classes within there. And so the idea of teaching digitally had been banted around for a long time. I had kind of started and stopped with YouTube a couple of times to look at it. Is this the vehicle that we use to go that way? Do I use something that's behind a paywall, so on and so forth? And it never really gone anywhere. It's a bunch of false starts with it, because I was busy in the brick and mortar doing the things physically until, like I said, COVID.
And so with the YouTube channel, you use your educational content alongside your, I call it infotainment, kind of entertainment type style content as well, to kind of educate and inform folks. And how does this bring clientele to you as far as the videos in your channel specifically?
Yeah, great. Great question, because I had no idea what that was look like at the beginning of starting to use YouTube. What I originally started to double down on YouTube and use it was to communicate to my existing customers at the time in which they couldn't come in store. So COVID had hit, they couldn't come in. I needed to be able to help them with questions and problems they were having. Also, our industry specifically at that time was exploding. When COVID hit, people, as everybody was at home and everybody decided to start baking bread all at the same time and everything else. So we got incredibly busy from a retail standpoint. But we had customers that they couldn't come in store anymore and ask us questions. They were asking us by chat or by, social media channels, whichever. So I started to create those videos to communicate to customers and help educate them with the tools that they may be now buying new that they'd never used, a bread baker or a certain type of pan or a type of knife or a new high horsepower blender. So this was really trying to solve the immediate problem for me. And as I created that content that was really quite evergreen, all of my content has a long-term shelf life. I found that started to get further and further out in the world, and people outside of my little bubble that I'd really been focusing on. I was really only concerned about my email list, the 30,000 people that we have on there and our direct customers. But we were having people from San Diego and from North Carolina and from Quebec City and from Amsterdam and from Melbourne, Australia, getting a hold of us and being like, hey, I've got that problem too. Like, does that apply to me? I can't buy that same item, but I have the same problem. And then I realized it's like, hey, I actually have an opportunity here to, service a larger customer and definitely sell to a larger customer, but help more people. And those go hand in hand. The more that I find that I help people through videos, the more that the knock-on effect to us is that it creates more revenue for us. We see sales now from across Canada, mostly because we're Canadian, but we do sell in the US. But, we sell more across the country than we ever did, that I ever thought possible. And we don't use Facebook marketing. We don't use Google AdWords. We just use the YouTube channel to be able to reach those people. And they watch, they listen, they get a little bit of trust in what I'm saying. They may reach out, but whichever it ends up being a transaction. And what's great for me in that, they'll buy, say, a new cast iron pan that they're apprehensive. They've maybe never had cast iron before. They know that it's a bit daunting because it has, a serviceability to it. They'll buy it knowing that I'm there to service them. They know that either my created videos are there or will answer their questions through a YouTube chat or whatever it is. They get looked after. And so it's creating that community wherever they are in the world, which has been incredibly rewarding.
And all of this trust is being built primarily from the YouTube channel. It's
100%.
It's because you had that presence that it's allowed you to do that. Now, I don't want to focus on this very long because this isn't a business podcast. It does intertwine oftentimes, but I assume this is where e-commerce comes in, right? Where you have, whether it be a Shopify store or Squarespace, whatever you're doing, and you're just selling.
Yeah, we use Shopify, and it works incredibly well. We use the marketplace so we can sell into the States really easily. It helps the customer. You may, if you've watched one of my videos, I'm really not trying to sell at all. That's definitely a benefit. of what I do, but my goal is to just help the person where they are and where they're at. If they're buying from their local kitchen store, that's awesome. Their local kitchen store may not have the tool that they want, and so they need to go somewhere else, and I may need to help them. And so they may not be buying from me because shipping's too expensive or whatever, but I'm going to help them get what they need where they are, and that's my 100% goal.
And you're
if they end up then.
You're just putting your link to your store in the description.
Yeah.
If you talk about, say, product A, product A's link will be there, in the description, and we'll talk about monetization here shortly.
Yeah. And I actually got reprimanded by some watchers, which was quite funny, because I really didn't want to have a hard sell. I wasn't trying to sell anything. My existing customers that I was sending that link to that video by email, they knew that they could come in and buy from me. They were the existing customers. I wasn't understanding the YouTube community that wanted to buy from me because of how much they trusted. And so I had some people that were like very particular. They're like, why are you not giving me the links to buy this from your website? Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, I want to spend my money with you because you're doing this well. So please tell me how to buy this from you. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, I better update these. So, I went through, and every video I put that link, and, and that just the more links and the more opportunities I gave for people to buy in the show notes, the more we made.
I want to talk about this too. This is a myth that a lot of folks have, in that they think that in order to make money on a channel like yours or for a business on YouTube, you've got to have an astronomically large channel. That's not the case. It's
not that I've found.
If you have a channel that has consistent people coming to your videos for your education or for your product or for your niche, whatever it is, you're going to find some success.
I think for me, something that I do is that I'm very particular on what my message is. And I am an advocate for cast iron, carbon steel, and stainless steel cookware for longevity. Like it's impossible to buy a coated pan that will last any duration. It may last 10 years. It may last 1 month. It will wear out. And the reality is that even a 10-year pan is just a blink compared to how long what I said before, one of the traditional pans will last you for. You can pan them down in your family from generation to generation. And to me, that makes a lot of sense from an environmental standpoint and also from a quality standpoint. They're wonderful to use once you learn how to use them. And so people that that message resonates with, and they understand how particular I was and the reasons that I gave, and the people that I've talked to kind of prove the point that is the best direction, they're like, okay, I trust you now. I want to buy from you. And I found that once they really buy into that's the lifestyle they want to lead, they believe in that, then they want to buy from the source that they know they're going to be supported. And that's where the transactions come.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I normally transition into monetization here, but we've talked about it a good bit already. Basically, you're doing the marketing from your channel and you have links to your store in the description. I assume you are monetized on YouTube as far as like the ad revenue. Are there any other ways that you're monetizing?
I've got some partners down in the States in which I've got affiliate links with them. Some of my American cast iron brands, when it's a problematic, I don't want to ship, a ton of cast iron from Pennsylvania to Vancouver to then send it to, New Orleans, right? Like they might as well get it in the shortest distance as possible to have the least greenhouse effect to that shipping. And so I would much rather just make a small affiliate link or none at all, and have them buy it from the manufacturer and have a shorter shipping distance to them. And so, it's a benefit. Those guys gave me affiliate links that works. They can buy it from me in Canada that I can ship in Canada, or they can buy it through that affiliate link or directly from the manufacturer. It doesn't really matter to me, but that is one way in which we do monetize outside of the AdSense.
Okay, wonderful. And now I want to transition to the YouTube channel side of things as far as building up the channel. It's a very aesthetically pleasing channel. You've done a really good job designing it. I recommend you guys, as you're listening to this or later on, if you're out running or doing errands or whatever it may be, go check it out. It's Cook Culture over on YouTube. What's been the hardest thing for you, Jed, as far as like the YouTube channel itself? What are some of the things that you found to be very difficult, and how have you overcome those?
I found it's been a really fun and rewarding journey altogether. So I wouldn't find that I've had really any difficulties, because I guess this may sound kind of strange, but my goal is not to have 1 million subscribers, right? My goal is to help each individual as best as I possibly can. So I'm focused on the one conversation. So I guess the only disheartening thing is when I get people that really think that something that I'm trying to do, I haven't done it correctly, and they really start trying to call me out for a way that I find a little deflating, right? Because it's just like, obviously I'm not going to make you a customer or make you happy in any way, and somehow you're here trolling me and it's distracting me from a message. You're trying to distract this message of what I'm trying to say. And, I have no proof or evidence, but I definitely have ruffled some feathers in my industry, definitely on some suppliers that sell specifically just coated cookware. As you could imagine, somebody like myself who's saying don't buy it, and to somebody who their life is depending on, or their revenue is depending on selling that product, they're going to find that I'm an annoyance, right? And so I do find that there's some friction in there sometimes that can just continue to add to the confusion to the customer. And I find that gets, it ruffles my feathers a little bit. I get a little bit irritated. I have to kind of keep my emotions out of it, and just be logical and try to engage with those people as logically as I can. But sometimes there isn't a win there. You're never going to actually come to a common ground.
That's true. You can't reason with stupid sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And I get it. I'm telling people don't buy a brand. And I've been quite specific about a brand because I have customers that have come to me, or YouTube people in the YouTube world that have said, hey, what about this brand? This brand, they market heavily to me. They're in every single one of my feeds. They make a lot of sense. What do you think about this? And I spend my time, I look at it, and I have made a couple of very particular review videos of certain brands that have not been really that great for the brands. And because what happens is that all of them are a coated cookware, and I have scientific kind of backing that every single nonstick product made will wear out in a relatively short amount of time. So there isn't a nonstick brand on the market that holds water. And so if I'm reviewing a nonstick brand, it's going to unfortunately be a negative review.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good advice. What is something that you wish you knew sooner, though? Now that you've done this for a while, you look back, you're like, man, if I just would have implemented that, or if I just would have known that in regards to the YouTube channel, and it may be a couple of things.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to the production quality. So it's you can really start making a quality YouTube video with your Samsung or your iPhone. You can and that's how I first started doing it. And I was just using my phone, and it had a great camera. I had a mic just by a long wire connected to it to my lapel, and I had I think a table lamp that pointed towards me. It was just super basic. But every step of the way, it's that's either it's a pain in the ass being either it's a problematic being connected to a wire. So it's hey, well, what is a wireless connection, hardware, and how does that work? And then what's a good piece of software? So I guess, what I know now is kind of what I wish I knew then is, how to use editing software that is, a whole world, how to make audio sound really great. What's the best kind of lighting to use? When you move to a better quality camera, what is that camera? How do you deal with battery issues and memory card failure and all those different things? So, I guess the bumps that I've had in the road, it would have been nice to have had either somebody or some, program that I could have read or watched. And I did look at some of those, fully inclusive, like how to be, a YouTube person. And they were good, and they did teach me a couple of things, but they didn't really show me all of the major hurdles that I was going to run into. They really would just this is how it works when everything works properly. Instead of this is how your bad day is going to go, right? And so I had to learn those sort of things on myself.
And it's amazing, all of that stuff. I mean, 98% of it is already on YouTube for you to learn, right? I often call it YouTube University. People get tired of hearing me say that, but it's so true. If you want to know how to edit a video, you can look for any editor on YouTube, and there's full tutorials for absolute no money that you can go and consume.
Yep.
And being able to, it's willing what you're going to spend your time on. Are you willing to do it? And if you are, it's out there for you. So I love that. As far as the videos themselves, what are some things that you have learned in the video making or processing on YouTube that you've implemented that you think have been, you can attribute to your success?
Well, for me, it's about the content. So I know what I can get a whole bunch of views and likes and engagement on, and that I really enjoy doing, and that really sticks to the technical gear. And when I sometimes deviate away from that a little bit and talk about health and lifestyle. And what I find really quite interesting is that things that generally that are incredibly important to somebody when they need it, like health and lifestyle. So say you have some sort of a health issue, that is the most important thing in your universe at that point in time. Nothing replaces your health, right? And so that's where I've tried to talk a little bit about that on the fringe of our main focus. But the views and the engagement is really low, right? But the people that do like it a whole lot. Where the larger things, when I'm talking about either a major brand, like for us, Lodge, everybody knows Lodge cast iron cookware. If I'm talking about Lodge versus another brand, and I do a pan-to-pan comparison, I'll get a ton of views on that because it's what I find it's the entertainment factor. People want to see a comparison, like a this versus that, and what are you going to cook that on, and what's the end result? And it visually has an end result instead of a kind of abstract conversation of something that may not really matter to you at that point in time. And so as I look at growing the channel that I enjoy, and definitely seeing more people subscribed and seeing more engagement is rewarding. It's that balance of mine of doing things that I have a real emotional attachment to, that I'm really passionate about, when health and wellness, that is my larger passion in my life. And then my knowledge and my career that is technical, using pans and knives and blenders and all of the things that you use in your kitchen that I know so incredibly well, and kind of trying to marry those two. And that's where I find the most challenging thing of trying to grow the channel while doing what I'm really, really passionate about.
It's interesting, something that you said there about knowing kind of what types of videos are going to do well and see a bunch of views. How do you balance that as a creator who is still trying to grow their channel, obviously? How do you balance from, okay, these are evergreen videos that may not get a bunch of views right now, but they'll be kind of a tent pole on my channel, and then those videos that are like, here's a review of this specific pan or whatever it may be, here's a comparison or a top 5 that is going to do really well. How do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is that, so if I'm going to do a review on this pan versus that pan, it's kind of like a one-off video. That's that, you're searching, Lodge versus something, and you find my video, and you're just a random somebody coming from somewhere, right? You're not part of my YouTube community. The other part, which I'm trying to, that I know will get lots of views, right? And especially if it's the bigger the brand name, like if it's like Stove versus Le Creuset cast iron, a slam dunk. You're going to get 10, 20, 30,000 views, no problem. But if I am talking about the effects of vitamin C on kids from between the age of 6 and 8, unless you have a 6 and 8-year-old that you think has a vitamin C deficiency, you don't really care that much. And I'm getting very minute about that. I wouldn't talk specifically about that, but it's just my example. What I look at there is if I'm going to do something about, say, supplements for kids and talk to some professionals, I want to do a series and try to create a video of 3 or 4 things that I can kind of package together and have as a showcase that a parent could find and then consume, 3 or 4 or 5 videos. And that's what I'm trying to do over on that side a little bit, as I'm bringing that into that umbrella, that I'm talking about, kids' health. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. So kids' health is really important to me at this point in time in my life. I exercise intensively. I'm a long distance trail runner, so nutrition is really important to me. I'm also a plant-based eater, and so I get all of my nutrition, all my protein, all my fats from plants, which, is something in which is a focus of mine to do it well. And so that's what my passion is. So when I'm doing that, I try not to do it as a one-off video. There's this one video about this one thing, and it just sits there and gets no views. I want to try to build a collection so that when somebody like myself has an interest, they can start to consume 3 or 4 or 5 videos to try to grow that interest in that space, if that makes sense logically.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you answering that question. About yourself personally, what have you learned about yourself through the creation process of kind of going from the cooking space and world into the creation space?
What have I learned about? I guess the thing is that I've learned that I absolutely 100% get my heart gets filled by helping other people. And I've always felt that, and I think that's what drives me to that health and wellness side a little bit too, is that I love knowing that, a 65-year-old lady in, Alabama, who has been using nonstick her whole life and finally just got a piece of cast iron either gifted to her or got it somehow, has no idea what to do with it, reached out to me directly, and I was able to walk her through the steps of getting it. And she sends me a picture of, sliding an egg off her pan. It is so incredibly rewarding. My heart just goes overwhelmed by, her at first being so concerned and scared and worried that she's not going to be able to cook food for her and her family, but really for whatever reason wants to get away from nonstick. She's bought into her head, either from an environmental or from a health standpoint. And she gets there, and then she's happy. And I don't hear from her again, but through the time that I've been with her and helping along the way, that could be a conversation by email or by chat over a month or 2 months even. That is so incredibly rewarding, and that's what I love about it. And that's really reinforced in me what I want to do more as I now, get into the second stage of my life. I'm going to be 50 next year. That, giving back to people is something that I want to do as much as I possibly can in the second half of my life. And YouTube is a platform for me to do that.
That is, to me as well, one of the most gratifying parts of what we do, especially myself. I do tutorial and how-to type content, and being able to help people, especially through like the COVID pandemic, and it obviously is still ongoing, but the process of having folks reach out to me and say, oh my goodness, if it wasn't for you, my church wouldn't have had a service this Sunday because I had no idea how to stream, or because of you, I was able to utilize this tool that I'm not tech savvy, and being able to watch your video really helped me out. These are the things to me that I love hearing. I love getting that information, and so to hear you say that is it kind of goes with what myself as well. With your channel going forward, short term and long term, what are your goals?
Well, short term, within the next, I'd say 8 months, we've got another season coming up. So our business cycle is seasonal. We sell a lot of stuff at Christmas time, and then we make it through the rest of the year. That's where the term Black Friday comes from. At your guys' American Thanksgiving, is that most businesses struggle to get to into the black, and Black Friday is when that happens, and we're no different. So I revolve around our marketing calendar around the fourth quarter of our calendar year, and I will be trying to, one-up myself from last year, as I was doing a lot of, if people look back on our YouTube channel, you'll see gift guides from last November, December. And I want to try to, improve on those gift guides and helping people make good, sustainable choices around gifts for their friends and family for Christmas time. So that's our short term. And then our long term, we used to teach up to 27,000 people a year in stores, physically in front of each other, teaching them how to cook. And I really want to continue to change that model and use video platform, YouTube and other types of video, to deliver some, easier to consume cooking style videos. And the reason I hesitate there is that not like what you kind of traditionally see. Here's a chef cooking a meal, but breaking components of foods down to where there could be the complexity of something. So say if somebody wanted to eat more beans, say, and you're like, hey, I've had problems with beans and I buy beans in cans, or they give me, stomach issues or whatever, breaking down the barriers that people usually have before they can just take a recipe and make whatever. And tackle the issues in eating more whole foods when it comes to teaching people how to cook. And that's where this whole kind of health and wellness side is kind of shifting towards from a business aspect, and then trying to have more content that helps people cook more healthier foods at home. And that doesn't mean 100% plant-based. That's just eating more plants on the plate altogether.
Right. I love that. I think you got an awesome thing going. I wish you only great success going forward with the Cook Culture channel. Jed, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week and chatting about kind of your success on the platform. And if you would, let my audience know where they can get in touch with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Dusty. Yeah, I really appreciated talking to you too. It's great. So we are www.culture.com. We are on Instagram at Cook Culture, Facebook at Cook Culture, and YouTube is just search Cook Culture and you'll find us.
And all of those pertinent links will be in the show notes as always. And Jed, we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Dusty.
You've been listening to the YouTube Creators Podcast. We want to thank you and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as support us on Patreon for great perks, such as having your YouTube channel featured on the show and a link on our website. Until next time, keep uploading those videos.